a small tooth, smooth and white, is hidden beneath a pillow. The room is dark and the child sleeps soundly. By morning the tooth is gone. In its place lies a coin, or maybe a trinket. It's a familiar scene, isn't it? A comforting tradition passed down. But traditions have roots, and roots can run deep, sometimes deeper than we care to dig. Tonight we step into the murky past of an ancient ritual seeking answers hidden beneath the twilight legend and truth. Who is the Tooth Fairy and where did she come from? And most importantly, why does she want our teeth? Every tradition is born somewhere, and some births leave a lingering darkness. Long before coins glittered under pillows, teeth held a power we've almost forgotten. They were more than tokens of childhood or evidence of growth. They were objects of deep significance, revered and feared in equal measure. In the Viking Age, children's teeth weren't just kept, they were treasured. Warriors carried them into battle, tiny relics of innocence to shield them from harm. That's a striking image, isn't it? Fearless men armed with swords and shields, relying on the fragile tooth of a child as a talisman against death. To the Vikings, teeth were more than remnants, they were symbols of vitality, of the life force they hoped to protect. But in the perception of teeth wasn't always so heroic. In medieval Europe, teeth carried a darker weight. Left unattended, they were thought to invite danger, not from ordinary thieves, but from witches. It was said that a witch armed with a tooth could use it to curse its former owner, binding their soul in dark magic. The solution? Burning or burying the teeth, erasing their connection to the living. A tooth left lying around wasn't just careless, it was dangerous, and a doorway to vulnerability. Even in cultures where teeth weren't seen as cursed, they were treated with caution. In Japan, children were taught to throw their lost teeth, upper teeth onto the roof, lower teeth buried in the ground. It was a practical superstition meant to guide new teeth to grow in straight and strong. But there's something peculiar about that ritual, isn't there? This urgency to rid oneself of the teeth, to cast them away as quickly as possible, suggests an unspoken fear. Why were teeth treated with such reverence and suspicion? Perhaps it's because, one way or another, one of the few parts of our bodies that endure. Teeth don't decay like flesh or dissolve like breath. They remain, even after life has ended. They carry the imprint of who we are and record our identity etched in the enamel. To people of the past, this permanence must have been unsettling. A loss of a tooth just as a physical object. It was a fragment of the self, something once alive, now separate. And in that separation lay power. Power to protect, power to curse, power to guide the future. Or perhaps power to connect forces we don't fully understand. Whether treasured, burned or thrown, teeth were never discarded without thought. It makes you wonder, when we leave our teeth beneath a pillow, are we inviting someone or something to take them? And if so, why are we so eager to give them away? So how did the tradition of placing a lost tooth under a pillow come to be? Is a question that's often met with a shrug, a simple answer about magic and childhood innocence. But like all traditions, there's something lurking beneath the surface. And in the case of the Tooth Fairy, the roots of this practice reach far deeper than we often realise. As we've seen in the past, the loss of a tooth was a far more trivial event for parents and communities, and it was a moment to be handled with care, because teeth weren't just discarded without consequence. They held power, and what you did with them could shape your child's future. In some cultures, as we've heard, it wasn't enough just to throw them away. It had to be buried, burned or hidden, as if to sever the connection between the child and the lost part of themselves. To cast the tooth into the earth or the fire was to protect the child from curses, or to ensure the new teeth grew in strong. But what about the simple, almost playful act of placing a tooth under the pillow? What began as an innocent way to ease a child's discomfort slowly evolved into a quiet ritual, one where the tooth was offered in exchange for something in return. The origins of this specific tradition are a little murky, but many believe it stems from the mixture of European folklore and a blend of old world customs and newer ideas about childhood. In medieval Spain, there was a figure known as La Dama de los Dientes, the Lady of the Teeth, a mysterious woman who would visit children who had lost teeth, leaving small gifts and coins. This evolved in different parts of Europe into various characters, sometimes fairies, sometimes mice, sometimes even small elves, all tasked with the quiet job of collecting lost teeth in exchange for money or tokens. But the idea of placing a tooth under the pillow didn't truly become widespread until the 19th century, when fairy tales and the image of the tooth fairy took on their more popular and familiar shape. The notion of a magical creature would visit during the night, slip silently under the pillow and leave a coin or a gift was a comforting way to mark the child's transition. There's something almost mystical about the exchange, isn't there? The quiet, unspoken agreement between the child and the tooth fairy. The tooth left in a vulnerable spot becomes a symbol of trust. But why the pillow? Why is it that this soft, safe place where we sleep and dream became the designated spot for this ritual? Perhaps it is because sleep, like the loss of the tooth, marks a time of transformation. It's a space between waking and dreaming, between childhood and the unknown, where something as fragile as a tooth can be exchanged for something as fleeting as a coin. The pillow too, it's a place where secrets are kept. It's where we surrender ourselves, where we let go of the conscious world and drift into something deeper. And perhaps it's here in this liminal space that the tooth fairy, or whatever force governs its tradition, can quietly enter unnoticed and take the tooth, with no one being the wiser. Maybe, but just maybe, it's not just the tooth she's after. Maybe the pillow holds something more precious. The dreams, the hopes, the wishes of a child on the cusp of change. And so the tooth becomes a token left behind as the child continues on their journey into the future. The tooth fairy is a comforting figure. She's a symbol of childhood, a gentle presence who trades coins. But this idea, this fairy, is a modern invention, stitched together from scraps of older, stranger stories. You see, in the 18th century France, there's a tale of a mouse, a clever magical creature that helped a queen defeat an evil king. This mouse would sneak into the king's chambers, hide beneath his pillow, and knock out his teeth. It's an odd detail, isn't it? Teeth again. Why teeth? In other parts of the world, the tooth fairy takes a different shape again. A goblin in Argentina, dog in parts of Africa. Always collecting, always taking. But the question remains, what does she or it want with our teeth? What value do they hold? And why are we so quick to trust the creature that sneaks into our homes unseen? This could be more of a darker adventure that we see. Ever heard of the bone collector? Could the tooth fairy and the bone collector be connected? It's a question that lingers, shadowed by uneasy parallels. Both figures are gatherers, collectors, or something deeply personal, something once alive. Teeth, after all, are bones, remnants of our bodies that hold traces of our existence. But the bone collector, even the name feels heavy. There's something primal about it, something that stirs an old, uneasy part of us. Bones are the last remnants of a life. What's left when the flesh is gone, and the soul, if you believe in such things, has moved on. Stories of the bone collector appear across cultures, and while the details vary, one thing is clear: they're always connected to death. In some tales, the bone collector is a guardian, a keeper of remains. To some, bones are more than just what's left behind. They're sacred, holding the essence of the person they once supported. In shamanic traditions, bones are thought to connect the living with the spirit world, a kind of bridge between what is and what was. But not all stories are so comforting. In Slavic folklore, there's Baba Yaga, the witch who lives in the house perched on chicken legs. Her home is surrounded by a fence of human bones, her warning to anyone who dares cross her. She's as much a collector as she is a predator. And then there is the battlefield scavengers, spirits or creatures in Western myths that stalk the dead, picking their remains clean, taking the bones for reasons we can only guess. And yet the bone collector isn't always a villain. In some versions, they're a force of renewal. Bones, after all, are the foundation of life, the framework for growth. To collect them could be an act of preservation, a way of honouring the past and protecting what comes next. Across folklore, the bone collector is a grim figure, often linked to death, decay and transformation. In some tales, they assemble skeletons, piecing them together, the remains of the past. Others say they guard bones as relics of power, vessels for souls, or keys to the afterlife. The tooth fairy on the surface seems innocent by comparison. She offers coins, a playful reward for a child's milestone. But what if she's part of the same tradition? A gentler face for an older, darker archetype. Both emerge at moments of change, a lost tooth, a lost life. Both take something left behind, something that connects the living to what lies beyond. So are they related? Well, perhaps not directly, but when you trace their stories back far enough, you might find they share the same root. And as we said, roots that run deep into the shadows, they reach deep to our oldest fears. Teeth are strange, aren't they? Unlike hair or nails, they don't grow endlessly, don't shed or regrow indefinitely. They emerge in cycles, making the milestones of our life. First as tiny buds that signal the start of a long journey, and later as larger, stronger replacements, only to fall again in death, leaving behind bare, grinning skulls. They're a part of us, deeply rooted, until they're not. When a tooth falls out, it's unsettling. It leaves behind an empty place, a void where something permanent was supposed to be. It's no wonder then that cultures throughout history have attached so much meaning to them. In some societies, teeth were thought to contain a person's essence to their soul. To lose a tooth wasn't just a physical event, it was a spiritual one. In ancient folklore, witches were said to use teeth in spells, binding their owners to curses or controlling their very being. Warriors carrying their teeth as charms, believing they held protective power. Even now, teeth remain uniquely personal, tiny fossils of our growth etched with our DNA, carrying the story of who we are. And then there's the tooth fairy. She sweeps in under cover of darkness, taking what we leave behind and offering a small token. But if teeth are as powerful as folklore suggests, what exactly is she collecting and why? Well, some say she's a guardian and a gentle figure helping us transform from one stage of our life to another. Losing teeth is the universal rite of passage. But if that's true, why does she take the teeth at all? Wouldn't her presence alone be enough? Others whisper darker theories of what if the tooth fairy isn't a guardian but a collector, hoarding pieces of us for reasons we can't comprehend. Teeth hold our genetic code, a blueprint of our being. Could she be gathering them for something larger we can't see? And then there's the exchange, the coin, the prize, the trinket. A distraction perhaps, keeping us from questioning that bargain. Because in every transaction, both sides gain something. We get a shiny trinket, but what does she gain? And have you ever stopped to wonder who really benefits from this tradition? Teeth are small, yes, but they are powerful. And when they're gone, it leaves us with questions. Who is the tooth fairy and what does she want? And perhaps most unsettling of all, what is she building with the pieces of us she takes? Perhaps the tooth fairy is just a story, a harmless bit of childhood magic. Or perhaps she's something older. Something hidden behind the guise of a fairy. After all, every myth begins as a truth, twisted over time. So next time a child loses a tooth and slides it beneath their pillow, ask yourself, who is coming to collect it and what is it they're truly taking away? Traditions have a way of sticking with us, even when their meanings are lost, but sometimes it's worth asking the questions we've been taught not to ask. You've been listening to Podcast Folklore, and thank you for listening to today's episode on the Tooth Fairy. Why not leave us a comment and let us know if there are any subjects you want us to cover in the future, and please be sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a like. Till next time, sleep well, if you can, and continue to explore the world with wonder.